Hi there, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Erica Exdale, the Abundance Activator. And in this video, I'm going to be working with my business manager. Her name is Elizabeth. And what we're going to be going through are some of the basic components of the work that I do called Unique Design Code, whereby, we can teach people exactly their unique roadmap to life so that they can cut through the crap of going through the cycle of having to learn from experience and just get on with who they're designed to be, what their path and purpose is about, how they're supposed to operate in the world so that they can learn their unique piece of the cosmic puzzle, and how to be crystal clear and discerning about decision making so that they can be their most aligned best selves in the world and do it in an easeful, graceful, harmonious, and fast way. So in this video, we're going to be primarily working with the type, which are projectors, and as Elizabeth is, but for everybody, this is going to be a great resource to understanding authority and strategy, and really getting some insight as to how sometimes we can be misled about being empathetic and what we're actually supposed to be doing with the feelings that we have, and how to learn and get out there online and even research for ourselves who we are, how we're designed to operate, so we can start learning and finessing our unique design codes so that we can, again, live our best life and be able to deliver our great work to the world and really make an impact that is so satisfying for all of us. And one of the markers of where abundance stems from, right? Because we're all about abundance in every single area of your life. And part of the unique design codes is really truly understanding your genetics and how you are supposed to align to attract your divine ideal partnerships, your love, your relationships, how you are aligned to attract, create prosperity, which does include financial abundance, and then where your genetic genius lies, what you're here to do in the world, and how to accomplish that. So amazing work. And we're going to take the first half of that in this video. So enjoy. If you have any questions, by all means, please reach out and let me know so that I can support you. And I hope that this is very informative and that you enjoy. I'm Erica Exdale, and this is Miss Elizabeth Woolard. She is a very big part of my life right now. I like to call you my business manager, but a very special person in my life that's very, just very connected to what the work that I'm bringing into the world, and really helping me to do it in a cohesive, efficient way that's beneficial for everybody. And it's not taking me down in the details, so that I can really be supported to shine with what it is that is my craft. And her craft is just brilliantly managing my business and all of my outputs. So grateful to have you, sweetheart. So needless to say, I know her relatively well. We've been connected for a couple of months now. And one of the big works that I give to the world is that I have my own special thing that I call Unique Design Code. And that's what we're going to be doing here today. So I'm going to be talking to her about her design code because we're close and we work together, on a very regular basis. So me understanding her design code gives me so much access to knowing how best to communicate with her, how best to support her. And because it's a natural inclination that I like to know about all people. And I think everybody should know everybody's design code, because it helps us to support people in the way that they're truly designed to be interacted with, which means we get the best results with them, which means we have the fastest access to better, healthier relationships, relating ships. And in that process, when somebody learns their design code, holy crap moly, do the floodgates open up. And the way I like to say it is that everybody has basically a manual for how they are uniquely designed to operate in the world. And if everybody really just knew how to operate themselves appropriately, we all can click into this amazing, unique, very unique, one of a kind designated spot that we're all supposed to occupy, that nobody else can do but us individually. And that's when universal influences can orchestrate everything working perfectly. So for instance, when like Elizabeth, so we'll talk about her design, but when Elizabeth is operating herself correctly, she's waiting for an invitation. She knows that she has to go through an emotional wave before she's making decisions. She's harmonizing herself, and everything starts to come to her based on her resonance, based off of her intentions, and things start clicking into place in a way that's so much more easeful than the push and tug that so many of us are used to doing. Now, when she's in alignment, sometimes that might mean her saying, no, I can't do that, or that's not correct for me, or actually, thank you for asking me, but what you're about to do isn't actually right for you, and I'm going to do it this way. I'm just making it nebulous here, and we'll get into the details of this, but when she is doing herself correctly, I can guarantee everything outside of her is clicking into place according to that as well. So you'll hear me talk a lot about like, this one is the number one person, most important human in the universe, ... that she occupies, because her universe is literally created through her resonance, and therefore she attracts everything into her reality. So essentially everything that all of us attract and that we can even perceive is a co-creation of what we're resonating inside of us. So back to this cosmic puzzle thing, when all of us are in alignment, operating ourselves, man, like it's amazing. It gets so much easier. We are so much more potent and powerful in our ability to manifest, and everybody around us benefits. So keeping us number one benefits everybody else, which just keeps benefiting us. So it's like this cycle that keeps going back and forth and back and forth. So with that said, we'll dive in on some of the biggest benefits of knowing your design code. Is that you learn to actually trust yourself and your ability to be discerning with interpreting what's going on in the self, with interpreting what you're perceiving outside of the self, and then what actions to take from different components of your body, whether it's physical, whether it's with your voice, even with intention. So when we can be incredibly discerning, because we know how to trust ourselves, not what we've been taught to trust, but our actual selves. It's such a big piece, because we can get very confused in trusting other people, for instance. Well, don't trust other people, trust yourself to be discerning about other people. Then you still are maintaining the balance and the control so that you're not inadvertently being, like taking your feet out from under you from left field. So discernment, crystal clarity, understanding yourself, everything stems from that. So let's dive in. First off, darling, do you have anything that you want to ask or say?
Yeah, I think so much of this helped me because for a really long time, I saw everyone else in these like neat, tidy boxes that just fit them so well, right? And it never resonated with me. Even when I was younger, everyone knew what they wanted to be when they grew up. Everyone knew exactly what their plan was. And that just never felt right. So the path that everybody else kind of had laid out for them has never fit for me. And that's why I started my journey as an entrepreneur. I started working with women who think outside of the box. And I feel like this kind of gave me some confirmation, like at the right time too, when you said this over to me, that I don't have to have this neat, tidy box, but I can have a map that kind of tells me why these other things hasn't worked out so well. And it's been this like little missing piece that has helped me since you've introduced it to me. So I'm excited to dig in deeper.
Yay. Oh, that's so awesome. Yeah, let me speak to that real quick. So one of the things too is that when we really understand how we're actually supposed to be operating, I can guarantee like 100% of the people I've ever worked with, they're like, it's like this huge relief of like, oh my God, I just didn't know how to click it in. And once we understand these things, we can stop operating from how we've been conditioned to operate, which for all of us is out of alignment. We can click into alignment, and then we can self-advocate. So, you know how sometimes we hear the phrase like people show up in a way that we teach them to show up for us, That's very true, but it also has a lot to do with how we're training people to respond to us, like how we're training people to treat us. So we'll get into that more when we're talking about authorities and strategies. So one caveat here that I like to say is I call my unique blend of what I'm doing unique design code. But what I've done is I've taken 3 major bodies of work and I've brought them together. So side note, I obviously operate very, very well within my unique design code. And that's one of the reasons that gives me access to being able to do this so well. So without being, I've not been schooled in any of this. I am self-trained in everything, but that's part of my unique design code. So when I'm in alignment with that, I have the ability to take extremely complicated things and relate them down into a structure for the individual that's actually pertinent to them. Doesn't mean it sometimes doesn't come out complicated and a little bit like verbal diarrhea. But again, that's my human design. I have what's called the line of genius, which comes out if I'm operating in my strategy, which we'll talk about. It will land with people as in like, whoa, you just blew my mind. And if I'm not operating within my strategy, which we'll talk about later, and I'm giving my information, my genius to people when it has not been asked for, it comes out like diarrhea. It doesn't work so well. So and I'm a little vulgar and gross, as everybody knows, but that's the thing. It's like when we are all clicked into our alignment, there is genius running through all of us, but we need to know how to deliver our great work to the world. Otherwise, for all of us, it falls on deaf ears, and there are resistance patterns that then engage our conditioned responses, which for someone as, for someone like you, which is a projector, boy, that's a painful experience to have the resistance. So anyway, back to unique design code, 3 massive bodies of work, which it's easy for me to translate. One is human design. So for some of you watching this, you'll be very familiar with it because human design has really become popular in the last couple of years. I've been studying it for about 8 years now. So that's one component. Now, the other component is gene keys. This is another massive body of work where we can actually, through birth timing, look at somebody's genetic code. Now, we all have the 54 different genetic codons, but we all exhibit our gene keys a little differently, and there are different components of each gene. And if we can read them, we can really fine tune and look at our genius, how we attract love and prosperity, and what we're here to do, what our path and purpose is, what keeps us vital, what we're here to learn. Like, we can really distill this information down into a structure and strategy that with my little spin on it, I can give you one step, do here, put this foot in front of the other here, so you can actually gain traction with who you're designed to be. It's a lot of information, and sometimes it takes a bit of translation. And then the third body of work that I roll into my unique design code is the quantum level reprogramming tool that I wield. And I'm also a trainer of that. And it gives me access to actually going into the space between time and working with different, with this modality in the quantum field to actually start to shift the genetic coding of non-serving constructs and beliefs all the way through the ancestral profiling of a person to release them from shit that's no longer serving. It's like the bondage codes, the servitude codes, the negative default programming that all humans have come onto the planet with, that cause us to be in these loop cycles where it's just inherited concepts that don't serve us anymore. We don't need to hold on to them, but they're in our subconscious programs. So they're resonating at a deep level. And again, the resonance, how we're vibrating, is how we create a reality and how we attract our reality. So when we can remove and sever and clear what's actually really truly going on in the subconscious program that's no longer in alignment with our ascension trajectory, holy shit, can we excel so much more quickly with so much ease and grace and harmony. And that's what we're all looking for. We can all, so many of us just, we're so tired of being held back and we can't quite put our finger on it, but we're doing all the things. Why isn't it working? And it has to do a lot with all of these components. In my opinion, it's not the only way, of course, but being able to know how you're supposed to operate, very crystal clear, your map, knowing your gene keys, what you're going towards, so that you can see the lower frequency and the higher frequency of who you are, so that you can be like, this, not that. And then having the quantum level reprogramming to really remove what's operating the subconscious program that's literally holding you back. So these 3 things together, it's like, it's amazing. Okay. Now, what we're going to do today is I'm going to give the basics of your design, how I know it operates for you, things that really will help you. And again, now, since we've started talking about this, you've done your own course of study, and so you know a little bit about it. So we're going to talk a little bit about your human design strategy, authority, your projectorness and the different kinds of human design. And then we're going to go into your gene keys because I just love this. So for those of you that are watching, this is really about me and my girl just kind of connecting. So I'm just going to be talking about stuff as it connects to her. No more, I'm not going to make it about the whole audience, just focusing on her. But if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to connect with me. You can either leave, ask questions in the comments. You can reach out on my website, anything. I'm here to help answer questions for people. All right, darling. So as you know, you are an amazing projector. I have a very, very soft spot in my heart for my projectors because from what I've understood is that they're a very, very, very interesting time in the world right now where it's almost like it's been turning over from what used to be a generator's world to a projector's world right now. And projectors in general are here to guide and lead the way. Now, way back in the past, when it was more a manifestor's world, let me real quick say the different types. So we have manifestors, which I think really could be better understood if we called them initiators, because we're all manifestors, right? We can all manifest like no one's business when we're in alignment. But manifestors, we have projectors, which is you. We have reflectors, which is 1% of the population. I've literally come into contact with like a handful in my entire life, and I've never worked with one, ever, like in my entire career. So very, very rare.
Okay.
And then we have, did I say generators? Yes. Then we have, did I already say, oh, sorry. Then we have generators.
Yeah, we did not see generators yet. Generators.
Then we have generators, which is me, which is the majority of the population. And then we have manifesting generators, which they're still generators, but they have initiation capacity. It's kind of a blend.
Okay.
So way back when, it was a manifestor's world, and it's been moving forward and shifting throughout time. So where we're at right now, from what I understand again, is it's moving into the projector's world. Well, an overview of projectors is, like I said, they're here to guide and lead the way. But they must wait for an invitation. So all designs have their strategy and then their authority, which I term as their internal compass. So your strategy, all projector strategy, is to wait for an invitation. So herein lies a big conundrum, because let's see, just in general, our society, I mean, it's not like we're taught to look to other people to lead the way. In general, like be the go-getter, go initiate, make shit happen, go, fit into the box. And so projectors, they can see everything that's not working correctly. And they can see, like, just do this, dude. Like, what's wrong? Like in interrelational experiences, for corporations, for businesses. And that's why you're so brilliant at business. You're like, oh, just do this. And everyone's like, oh. So, and what's so interesting is that what their out of alignment feeling is extreme bitterness when they meet resistance. Well, if the world's not used to looking to other people or the right kind of person for guidance, and projectors must wait for an invitation, and they're not receiving a lot of invitations, but people are out here in general, like bitching and moaning about the shit that's going on. And then our amazing projectors are like, well, you just need to do this, but they're not asking for it. The general feeling that projectors have from my career of working with them is that they feel so frustrated and so bitter because they're in this world where everyone's bitching and they have the answers. But every time they give the answer, when they have not received an invitation, they're met with resistance. But they've got the answer. And then the opposite thing that can happen a lot, I don't know how much this is for you because you have a defined route, but a lot of the projectors, because it feels so good to finally receive an invitation, they say yes to invitations too quickly. And then they can commit to things that aren't aligned for them. But because most of them are so integrous and they just want to fit into the box and help, and finally it's just help, like it's an off-gassing of relief of like, let me just do what I'm here to do. And it's all happening subconsciously. They'll follow through on things that weren't aligned for them because they said yes to a non-perfected invitation. And honey, interrupt me anytime that anything comes up, because I could talk all damn day.
Yeah,
Um,
so I agree with that, and I think I've gotten pieces of this before you sort of, like, introduced me to this world because, like, even the way that I do lead generation is completely different than the way that anybody else does, and that's why it aligns with my people so well.
right.
I help people who are already asking for help, right? That invitation is out there, and I found a specific way to go about it. But they're asking for help, I come in and I help them, and that feels so good. And I definitely have been guilty of I do so desperately want to help. I see people who they just need this little connection. I know how to do it and they want the help, but they still have that stickiness of whatever that is and they're not quite ready to implement. And then that's where some frustration does come in because it's like I can literally make you money, I can literally make your business flow, I can make your life better if you'll just let me. But definitely taking the time to sit with myself is where that has begun the shift. But everything you're saying resonates so much, and that's why I love this work because it mirrors what I'm already doing, and there's some struggles that I do still kind of have around too.
Yeah, and it will just keep getting easier for you because one of the things that you have going for you that you naturally clicked into place is positioning yourself where you are engaging the mechanism of the invitation because the way you go out into
Mhm.
the world, you just connect from your heart. You're like, hey, and you just have an audio text, hey, I noticed this. And then people come back to you, and that's them giving you an invitation where they're
Mhm.
like with me, I'm like, or no, I got you through Rachel, but with Rachel,
Yeah.
for instance, she's just like, oh my gosh, I love your energy. Like, thank you so much. Like, who are you?
Mhm.
What do you do?
And
Then
she
that's
asked a
invitation.
question in the group too, and that was my other invitation. She was like, "I need help with this," and I was like, "I can help with that." And
Right.
that's where I feel good to be able to come in because it's the invitation, right? It clicks.
Invitation and they're receptive, and then there's
Mhm.
this natural flow that happens. So you've already positioned yourself in a way where, and this is one of the things that I teach that you are obviously really on board with. That's so important. It's like when we're in flow, relationships, our vocation, money, um,
Mhm.
eh, our great path and purpose, work in the world, it's all the same thing. It
Mhm.
always interconnects. So for you, your great work in the world is also your passion, is also what keeps you healthy, is also part of your gene codes. And when you're doing it naturally, it starts to come towards you. Now, where there's always room for growth and continuing to learn and understanding is resisting the urge and learning how to filter the emotions and the energy through your very susceptible design when you're like, oh, I can help so much, but you're not letting me,
Yep.
and knowing like this is where we get to lean into this whole notion of like God's got our back. It's God thing, let universe, like just releasing control and attachment, which we all need to do in our own different ways of like, I can help so
Mhm.
much, but you back up, you wait, and then this is where manifestation comes in. And this is something that I really beat into the ground for everybody because all of our designs have a specific type of strategy. And a lot of them, most of them require us actually sitting back a little bit. So the biggest question that people have, especially my projectors, you and I have already talked about this, but is like, well, then how the fuck do I manifest if I'm just sitting here waiting all the time, waiting for an invitation, waiting for an invitation, waiting for an invitation, And we've been taught in this now age, the spiritual woke community, it's like, well, go take action. You need intention paired with action. Okay, well, here's the first step of it is initiate. The only time you can ever initiate is through creating an intention. It all happens inside here. Pairing your desired reality. We can visualize. This is where visualization actually is a manifestation key component. Because when we visualize what we want, even if we don't know all the components of what it looks like, which often is even better, just start fantasizing. You don't have to know exactly what's going on because when you just are dreaming a little bit, daydreaming, fantasizing, seeing what's in your reality and being like, ooh, I like that. That not so much. Ooh, I kind of like that. I don't know about that, but maybe that's all fine because what it's doing is it's increasing your frequency. You're starting to vibrate at a higher level. And everything that we could ever desire is already in the quantum field. And what we're learning to do as conscious humans is tuning our frequency and being in conscious control of that, which then becomes a resonance to what we desire. It can also become a resonance to what we don't desire. What we don't desire is always going to be a lower frequency. What we do desire is always going to be a higher, I shouldn't say always, but more often than not is going to be a higher frequency, right? So when we're tuning our frequencies, that's how we pull in and resonate with and become an attraction factor towards what's already in our quantum field, which is infinite potential. So again, when you're internally crafting the energy, envisioning, you don't have to know it. You're not going to make a mistake. Like, don't worry too much about, like, we've really learned, like, know exactly what you want. Focus really, really hard. Be intentional. Pick out the color and the feel and the sense. You kind of actually don't have to do that. It's really about frequency, especially if you have the quantum level reprogramming where we can remove the subconscious vibratory factors, because that's a big deal in crafting your reality as well. And so start in there first. Then we sit back and wait, and it will blow your mind. It's like, no, this shit can't be worked that fast. It feels like a miracle. It feels like magic. Well, it is, because it's quantum physics, and magic is just science that hasn't been proven yet. I mean, in our world, it has been. So generators, projectors, reflectors, even manifesting generators, we always start internally, and then via our different strategies, we wait. So for you, and you've done a beautiful job of this, keep dreaming, babe. Keep dreaming. Tune your frequency. Hold that vision. And it's going to change and morph and everything. Hold the vision. Wait.
And that's the thing, right? Like when I've tried to like squeeze it in my business, this has been a place where I've seen it the most. Like if I try to squeeze this particular idea without any flexibility, it like implodes on itself. It just can't happen. But when you have that flexibility, and I've seen that in the past like 2 or 3 months, especially, I just kind of let go of it sounds so cliche, but of knowing exactly what it was, right? Of just like, I know that this thing is coming. And then it came, it's beautiful, it's gorgeous, it's amazing. But I know for me, and I don't know if that's within this of like of being a projector, or if it's just me as a person, but I really want to control the outcome. But I really have to learn to release some of the details, right? And that's the big thing for
Let
me.
me pair this over, because this is a really awesome concept that will resonate with you, but it will resonate for so many people, not just projectors. So the concept is like, and a lot of us know this, it's like when we hang on to something, it's kind of white knuckling at it, it actually becomes a resistance pattern to the thing we want. So always crafting, desiring, feeling the energy of the outcome you want, and letting it go, and like waiting, then you will receive an invitation. And being very open and receptive is going to always allow you to tap into the field of what's possible, not just the small amount of what you currently have access to understanding as capable as possible from here. Now with you, I've noticed this I've noticed you doing this when we've worked together so much. It's so hard for me to talk so slowly because my mind is going so fast. But I've noticed so many times with working with you, it's like you come to me and you fucking know what you are doing. Like I have never given up so much control to anybody as with you, because I know your design. I always want a projector in my business, and you have the expertise that I need that I don't have. Now your energy though is like, it's so open that when you and I are interacting, your energy to me feels like you're like, okay, that's an interesting idea. Let's explore. It's almost like you're just waiting. You're like, well, let's see. Okay, then now that something has come in and you have a direct response that you're giving, then it's like you open up and you have this activation where you just pull out the perfected thing. Now you couldn't have pulled out the perfected thing because you weren't interacting with me yet. So that's where once we really start, and this is for generators, manifesting generators as well. Once we start working in our flow, we realize like, oh my gosh, if we really just wait, it gets so easy to do the thing. Now, for most projectors, and for you in particular, where the control comes in is actually a deep-seated protection mechanism, because you're so, projectors and reflectors will be called as a blanket statement the most empathetic people. And that's because typically you have a whole bunch of open centers. Let me just show this to you real quick. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, and I have it pulled up over here. That's why I keep looking to the side.
Oh, yeah. Are you texting? No, I'm just kidding.
No.
People are like over here. I'm like, I'm really paying attention. I know that you're looking at there. So it's just for people who are watching this. So The open centers are and this is the human design component of unique design code. The open centers are the ones that do not have color. And this is where a person is most receptive, but it's also where they are most conditioned, meaning kind of where they come out of alignment. Now, the ones where they're colored in general, there's not as much work to do on these centers, because this is where it's just more of a natural inclination to be able to rely upon these centers, because they're not as heavily conditioned. So real quick, head center, this is the mind, the throat, the G center, this is the self, the sacral, which is the battery, like the self-perpetuating motor, the root, which is a drive, spleen or the instinct. Over here is the heart or will center. It's also what we call the ego. And then this is the solar plexus. Did I say this is sacral? Solar plexus, which is the emotional center. So back to, let me take you off real quick. So back to the open centers and reflectors and projectors being deemed so empathetic. Well, we all have empathy. We all will take on energies if we're malaligned from the centers that are undefined, those white ones. So you being a projector, you have a lot of open definition, which means that you are very receptive to taking on other people's shit. So, you know, for your for specific design, you will in the past have the propensity, because you were trying to fit into a box and going, no, I can't fucking fit into the box. The projectors really can't fit into the box. And all projectors are asked to. And you're like,
yeah,
it's so frustrating, much more so for projectors, I think, than other people. But in the past, you would have the propensity to really feel like you have to like get attention in order to communicate, and like you really want to be able to speak the answers and the solutions to people and help so much. But often projectors have a really blocked throat. They'll say, oh, my throat chakra is really blocked, because when you speak without a direct invitation, you're met with resistance, even though you have
you shut down.
You shut the fuck down. And we'll get into that a lot more, because this is a very important concept for people to understand. But then also, you know, with the open G center, not the G spot, but the G center, the sense of self. And I have an open center as well there. We don't have an individual like sense of our direction. Like we don't have we all have a unique purpose, but our purpose is almost much more so to help other people find their purpose. And so this is a place where if we're undefined, we'll have the push and the propensity to be looking outside of ourselves for direction and for love. So we can imagine when we're conditioned in this response, like to be jumping around from person to person, not you specifically, but people that feel this thing. It's like you're a chameleon. You're this way with one person, then you kind of feel like you're this way with another person. Oh shit, if all three of you get in the room, all of a sudden you're like, who the fuck am I? And how do I operate? And people might be like, you're a little spazzy, or you're a little wiry, or why are you acting so differently? And it's like, it's really an interesting thing. Now, when you're one-on-one, it works because you're connected into that person's design. But then in the unconditioned response, you're maybe not you, but other people pushing to find love outside themselves, which can really cause us to make.
It's like people pleasing sort of stuff, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely.
I grew up with a lot of that, of needing like the, you know, like the perfect grades and everything to get that external validation. It was definitely something I've been unprogramming, but I can see that because that was a thing, right? You get the approval and then you feel better.
Yep.
And then you're
Absolutely.
still kind of, that purpose is still kind of there, right? Because you're still achieving, and that desire and that drive to achieve is there. So it's sort of hitting these other things, but obviously not in the way that we want it to.
Well, you brought up a really good point, because it's direction that we're looking for. So with people that have a defined G, they're typically on a straight path their whole life. Like they get themselves. They're never like, it's such a refined feeling. So I'm an undefined G, so I understand this really well. People who are defined don't understand us all that well in this component. What we crave is a structure that gives us a perceived sense of direction. We can switch directions quite easily as long as we're in alignment and we desire or we believe in structure. So for instance, like you can be on path with moving through, your business right now in the way that it is. Like you've tapped into something outside of you. And with the structure, it's giving you purpose here. And there are other things that are flowing into that. But you might also see you have a left angle cross of the plane. So you might discover down the road a little bit that all of a sudden, whoop, career takes a different
Yeah.
direction, and it will be in perfect sync for you. Now, somebody with a defined G, that's less likely to happen
Okay.
because we're chameleons. We literally can adapt to our surroundings. Where we can get very messed up a little bit is when we keep thinking that that's supposed to be solid, and then that's supposed to be solid, and then it keeps changing, and we're like, fuck, what do I do? But when we understand this, like you and I working together all the time, I'm like, honey, I need direction. Honey, I need direction. Like, I don't know what I'm doing until I get direction, and then I'm a superstar, right?
Mhm.
You have an undefined G, so do I. But together, we are magic, even
Mhm.
though both of us have undefined Gs. So, because we're helpful with helping other people, I can help everybody in the world find their direction. Me, myself, and I, oh my God, you see me, I'm just like, I wish
Yep.
people could see our meetings together. It's so
Yes,
crazy.
it would be really
So
interesting.
different. Okay. And then moving down, like your sacral, which is that white square. So you don't have a self-perpetuating battery. Now, again, projectors in the world, very few projectors. I don't think any projector has their own self-rejuvenating energy source like a generator. I do. And yet all projectors that I've ever experienced are like, you're trying to keep up with the Joneses because most of the world are generators, manifesting generators. Plus we have this psychotic formatting that's telling us, go, 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 more.
Mhm.
No, you guys are actually not supposed to be doing a ton of the doing. You're supposed to be guiding, directing. And when you have the perfect invitation, you will have the energy to follow through on it. But it's very, very, very rare. And you need to sleep a hell of a lot more than other people. You need to be alone a hell of a lot more than other people. You need to
That
be
is
alone.
so resonant. I do a lot of my time alone, and I've really like connected well with extreme introverts. Like there's literally people who call themselves extreme introverts. And I'm an extrovert at the same time. I love talking to you, I love talking to my people, but I need so much of a recharge to be able to do that. And I mean, I need a recharge. And
Absolutely.
I love my time alone. So it's just so interesting because it's such a big piece of my routine in general.
Yeah, and see, you know this, you clicked into it. I've worked with
Mhm.
so many projectors who are either young and they're in a familial dynamic where they have to learn themselves so they can teach their family how to operate with them. Otherwise, the family's just like, come on, come on. It's like usually one projector in a household, and they're being
Mhm.
expected to act like all the other generators or
Yeah.
manifestors. And it's just like it takes them out, it pulls them out. It's like my heart, I mean, I'm obviously really into all people. I see the potential, and everybody in alignment is a walking master, period. Humans are effing amazing. However, my heart is really connected to projectors because I want to teach projectors how to be in alignment because they're here to help take us forward in the new paradigm. It's very fucking important for us to have our natural born directors and leaders. And here's an example. As a generator, I'm here to respond. Well, when I have a projector leading the way, I get to be lit up. I get to be in alignment. I get to have access to the fullness of my battery.
Mhm.
And then I get the projector direction. There's no stopping me. And I have energy, an infinite amount of energy. Now, you not so much. So that's why if we understand our designs, we can teach people how to interact with us. We can understand how to interact with other people because we're all clicking into each other. And there's beautiful ways to come together and borrow from each other to create magnificence. And then the other thing, because we're going to get back to this empathy thing, is you have an undefined spleen, which is your instinct, which means that you can have the propensity to really pick up on everybody else's fear constructs. Oh, and
Mhm.
back to the sacral, the energy battery, when you're undefined, the propensity or the push to not know when enough is enough. So you'll keep spinning, you'll keep going, you'll keep trying, and until you, not you, but all projectors learn to wait and hold back and rejuvenate. You're spinning yourself out and you drain your energy. You can be sick a lot, exhausted, frustrated, bitter. And then back over to the undefined spleen. If you're taking on not just other people's fear patterns and waves, like, but of the collective as well, it's a pressurized thing that's happening that can cause projectors to feel much more empathetic. So back to you, the control thing happens to be deeper from your experience in this life being, conditioned inappropriately for you, in that you're trying to protect yourself from all of these waves of taking on other people's fears, like, oh my God,
Mhm.
being pushed to have the energy that you just fucking don't have, and then spinning yourself, going too far, not knowing when enough is enough, trying to find the direction, but not having it, the people pleasing, and then getting back to the throat of delivering your mastery and then being met with resistance. And it teaches you to want to shut down, which only creates more bitterness. You
Mhm.
have developed a pattern to protect yourself from all of that feeling, because for one, it's not correct for you. And then
Mhm.
two, it doesn't feel good. So that's what the control is. So when we can, okay, and keep interrupting me or keep adding if you want to.
I'm just like thinking through all of it because it just makes so much sense. And I want to hear you explain it because I can see how that why that response developed, right? But that's not helpful. And I can see how the being alone is how I actually get that control and get that recharging. And that's the place where the control comes from. But these other ways aren't helpful. So I'm excited to
You
hear
mean the
that.
control comes from making sure that you have the space to recharge?
Right.
Yeah.
Versus before in these other ways that weren't healthy. But
Yeah.
like my time alone is healthy. That's what I need to recharge.
Exactly. And so when we know that it's something that you are required to do for yourself to be
Mhm.
the best that you can be, so you can be of most service to the world, so you can actually be in the position to wait and receive the invitations, which then clicks in the cycle, you can better self advocate for yourself. So it's no more like it might have been in the past where you feel like you have to um, justify or protect or explain to people why you need to be the way you are because you're being met with resistance for how you naturally are supposed to be. That flips all upside its head because you're like, oh, actually, this is what I need in order to give. People are like, okay,
Yes.
cool.
And that's what I need. I need that connection right there. And I think that's what people will get out of this when they work with you is that connection. That alone, that's what I needed to hear because I need to go back to service. I needed to go back to like this bigger purpose, right? If I tell myself I need this time alone so I can help people, boom, done. I'm good.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. And then that connection, that's where love and money are.
Mhm. I love that. Okay.
Yep. So the empathetic thing, one of another thing that's so important for people to understand is like what I've seen a lot happen is so many of our different designs feel like we're shut down in our vocal cords. And then we're in this big cycle of, the awakened person of like, let's unblock, like energetically, let's unblock your throat chakra and go out and speak your truth to the world and go, deliver. And what I keep seeing happening is that if people do that, but they
Mhm.
don't understand their design code, they just cycle through the thing all over
Yeah,
again.
and you're making it this like it's more difficult after that because it's proving to you that that thing is not in alignment, right? That it's going to
Yeah,
keep happening. It's a
yes,
deeper program
yes,
after that.
yes. Yep. So, and then well, let's explain that first. So when you unlock and energetically, whatever's been there, you have a release of that, you feel all empowered. You're like, oh my gosh, it's so great. And then you might go speak your truth to somebody. Never
Mhm.
speak your truth to somebody unless you're a manifestor, period. And even then, you really have to honor your strategy because that will come off and people will be like, ugh. But all the other designs, there is a strategy by which we can utilize our voice for good. And I don't want to say for bad, but it will be met with the opposite of what we want. When you wait
Mhm.
for an invitation and you literally have to deal and allow the pressure to give subside and let it release, because in general, and this is so hard for people to hear, especially if they've ever felt blocked in their throat, shut down in their voice. Do not speak unless you're spoken to. Now, this is a bold statement, and this will make a lot of people's assholes pucker because that's like, whoa, 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 that's the whole problem in the first place. We want to free our voice. We want to go speak our truth. We want to be empowered. But if you are a projector and you must wait for an invitation, if you go out there and speak your truth to somebody who is not giving you an invitation, you'll be met with more resistance. Your gold, it's so valuable and it's so important. You do not you do not have my permission to give your gold unless it's going to go land somewhere with the people who are going to take that gold and turn it into platinum, turn it into more gold into the world. If you are giving your precious gold and it's just going by the wayside like it's just fucking dirt, that is the worst thing for a projector. And that's not what we need in the world. So it's like I make these bold statements kind of just to get people's attention, but never, ever give your gold unless somebody is like, please, I'm so ready for it. Thank you, please, because otherwise you are burning yourself out. You can't be of service. You can't make the money. You can't have the love. And that's what we all need right now. So it's a similar thing with generators like me. We have to wait to respond. Now it's not just an invitation, it's responding to impulses. And it's a very, very clear thing. It's a little different than yours, but that's the thing. So that's completely opposite of what we hear out there of like, unblock your throat chakra, heal it, go speak your truth. Not unless you receive an invitation, because then you start it all over again. So it's very interesting, like, just how confused things can be. So let's get, do you feel like that we have enough information about the control mechanism and how it's protecting, how you're protecting yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. As I see it, if I need that time alone to recharge, and I need to, anytime that we are met with resistance, we're deepening those programs and we're making it more difficult for us to go out with the world and give things that we need to give. And then we're also teaching ourselves that it's not safe to give to people. So when we wait for the right people, where it feels in alignment that way. I didn't explain it as well as you did. It works in my brain, I swear. I get
Oh, that sounded perfect to me, hon. I love that. And see, for those of you watching, like I forget because I'm used to working. I'm a teacher, I'm an educator, so I'm used to just delivering. But with a projector, it's always good to stop and take pulse and have them and give them an invitation to communicate, because they're seeing things differently than the rest of us. They just are. They're just seeing things on a much grander scale and they can pull the pieces together differently. So yeah, if you have a projector in your world, man, lean upon them and start learning how to give them invitations to speak, to give their input, to teach you something. And then if it ever comes up for anybody that's watching, help a projector know in the most subtle way, because we don't want to aggravate them, but wait for an invitation. You're going to have much more power and potency that's going to land better. And it's all about the individual person, making them more happy so that they can be more successful in the world. So another thing that you mentioned too is whenever you feel that little creep of like frustration, bitterness, aggravation, resistance, that just means in your design code, there's a place where you're out of alignment. You're operating from your undefined centers. And so when I teach people unique design codes, I give them the mantras and the questions they need to be asking themselves to sync them back into alignment, and how to take note of what's going on so that you can be your own guide. You don't constantly need somebody teaching you what's going on. It's like there's a craft to it. Okay, so let's get over into strategy. And we've already talked about the types and the we haven't talked about, I'm sorry, we've talked about strategy, but not so much authority. So recap, the strategy is we all have an individual strategy. For projectors, they have to wait for the invitation. And it's pretty explicit, like coming from a person, they're inviting you. And then a big deep-seated fear of projectors is, fear of kind of missing out and being left out, so just understanding these pulses that are running through you, then you can filter them through your system and stay very much aligned. Okay, so the authority. Now, this is such an interesting thing to me, and I love talking about authorities because there are a bunch out there, and projectors have so many different types of authorities. And yet what we hear out there is like, well, listen to your heart. What is your gut saying? How do you feel about this? What are you thinking? What is your instinct? Go with your instinct. And me, sometimes I'm like, oh, what? No. Like if I went with my instinct, I'm a generator. All generators have immediate gut response. But for me, that's not my authority. It's some generators' authorities. If and when I used to go with my gut response, like follow your instinct, like make a hurried decision, it was always wrong. Like always wrong. But when I followed my actual authority, which is called an emotional wave, it doesn't mean I'm more emotional or less than other people. Whoa, some stuff started to click in. Now, some people, some projectors, it's so wild and unique. They actually have to utilize another informed design to speak in order to understand their clarification. Whoa, that's a hard one for people. And once they learn it, their entire worlds change overnight, because if they are compelled with an undefined throat to need to speak it to somebody else in order to get their own clarity, well, what does everybody else in the world do? If somebody's coming to you and talking, you're trying to solve their fucking problem. Now, when a projector that's self-projected or has a sounding board authority can understand themselves, then they can self-advocate and then start to choose qualified people to be a sounding board, not to give them input, a sounding board. They can go, oh, hubby, oh, friend, oh, coach, I just need to hear myself talk it out. Are you open to listening? Boom. The other person was just told by a projector who is leading the way, guiding them as to how to operate for them. This is massive. Projectors that have the sounding board authority, can you imagine how shut down they've been? Oh, I just can't. It's like the worst of the worst of the worst. Like I just, oh, and then they get this and all of a sudden everything lights up. They need to hear themselves talk. Projectors have the answers, not me, not other people. Then there's self-projected projectors. Then there's ego projected. There's so many different kinds. So the point being is that we really need to know ourselves, not what we've been taught, not the box that we're all expected to fit into, because there is no box. There's not a one size fits all. We are all very unique, and it's very important to understand our nuance so that we can finesse it and really, really self-activate, because that's, in my opinion, that's what life is about, is this up-leveling of consciousness, which so many gifts come with that, so much abundance and happiness. It all comes with our ascension process along the trajectory of activating our consciousness. Well, we have to know how to operate the vehicle, because this is the vibratory factor that creates everything through resonance and harmony and draws everything towards us. And that's how we manifest. So such a big deal. Okay, so your authority is the same one as mine, so it's easy for me to talk about. It's also a very challenging one. It's called the emotional authority. Like I said, it's the solar plexus. So what's really interesting about me, for instance, I have an immediate gut response, but it's never true for me. I have to go through an emotional wave to get clarity. It's the same thing for me. So for instance, you will have an invitation. And because of the lack of appropriate invitations in, your past, you'll be like, yeah. Now, for you particularly, it should always be for you. Yes, that feels so good, but I don't know for sure yet. And I'm going to need to get back to you in a couple of days.
Yes. Okay. That makes sense. And that's something that has helped me so much in the past couple of months, is that space, because for so long, yeah, you want to say yes immediately. You want to jump on board. You want to go for it. You want to help people. Blah, 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 and it doesn't get the results that you want if you're saying yes to the wrong things. That has helped me so much. I'm so glad you're saying this, and I need to be reminded, because there's even an opportunity right now that I need to sleep on a little bit. I love it.
Yeah. And for me too. And it's like, I love it when there's so many people in my world that understand design code. Now I got something to respond to, an invitation. I said, oh my God, it's such a fuck yes, but you know me, I got to wait 3 days. I'll get back to you in 3 days. It like makes me a little nutty, because then we have these pressures too, where it's a conditioned response, but we really want to say yes because we don't want the thing to slip away.
Yeah. And that's the fear, right? That's other people's fear being brought in, right? The fear of losing the thing. Or what is that?
It can be. Okay. So it can be other people's fear for sure. It can be, mostly for you, it would be other people's pressure. But what it really is it's lack of experience that then gives us the wisdom, because even if something slips away and we're afraid it's going to slip away, if it slips away, it's because it wasn't right for us. We will never regret that, ever. But if we don't have enough experience to inform that, we'll have the pressure of like, oh, but I want it so badly. So like
Mhm.
where I'm at now, it's like I just have done it for long enough to where I can be like, oh, that's funny. There's that little fear that I don't want it to slip away. And I'm having the impulse to want to take action fast. Woo, I'm very aware of that. I'm like, never mind, because that never works out.
Okay.
So yes, it can be other people's fear, but for you, mostly it's other people's pressure because we're in a world of like, hurry up and make a decision, hurry up and make a decision. We need to self-advocate and be like, okay, I understand, and I don't want to keep you waiting. So if you need to know now, the answer is no. Now for
That's
you,
hard. Yeah.
all right, and that's no 90% of the time, yes 10% of the time for your optimized life, which means your optimized deliver service, which means optimized funnel of love and prosperity. Like when we can keep it in this thing, it's like no for you is gold. Not quite so much for me. It's a little bit different. It's not such a direct like no most of the time.
Okay.
So people pressure us to want to give them answers and we can't. So the way I've worked it out is just because this is part of my thing is the linguistical piece of it so that I can help people support me so I can support them. So the whole thing works is I just let people know, hey, if you need to know now, I totally respect that. I'll back out and I'll say no for now. If you can bear with me for a couple of days, when I get crystal clarity as to what's right for me, I guarantee it's going to be magic for you too. So if you're willing to
Mhm.
wait for me to get you an answer, thank you so much. It's really going to be worth it. And I
Yeah.
don't have
Like
to
that.
do that often. Because there's another energetic of activating all of these codes is when one really is in alignment with themselves, even if we have an undefined G like you and I do, when we're really in alignment with ourselves, nobody ends up arguing ever. Everybody is, you don't have to justify shit.
That's
Everyone's
true
like,
because those people would be brought in a different energy, right? Those would be people
absolutely.
giving us those invitations. So it'll
Absolutely.
become less frequent just by aligning these different areas. That makes sense to me because any 90% of the people I would have ever said no to could not exist even in this space that I'm existing in.
Exactly, exactly. It's a point of attraction that changes. And
Mhm.
it gives people, it's almost like immersion. It's entrainment from our energetic field that gives them a sense of what a confident, aligned person feels like. And it brings their vibration up into that encodement, essentially. So, like, I hear this all the time now. People used to be very uncomfortable with my air, the air I have about me. When I wasn't aligned, I would come off as, like stuck up or arrogant or I would hear it so many times, so many times. And this is in my deep past where people be like, wow, you're actually really nice. Like, God,
Mhm.
you've got a head on your shoulders. Man, that's not the sense I got of you when you walked in that door. And I'm like, thank
Ugh,
you. Like,
yeah,
oh, it made me like myself. Now, what in the past 10 years, the majority of what I hear more often than not is like, wow, thank you so much. I'm so glad you stopped to talk to me. Like, whoa, when you walked in the room, there was just this presence and this thing about you. And I just felt like, oh, this person knows who she is and knows what she's doing. And then when she smiled, it was like there's an uplifting thing about me instead of a
yeah,
like, so it entrains people because I'm in alignment. Then I only attract people who are resonance to that.
yeah.
And it gives them permission to just actually like rest into that. Like we all know how it is when we're around somebody that's very insecure. It's like it's uncomfortable. You're just like,
Mhm.
oh, stop it, stop it, stop it.
Yes.
Let me help you. Like, stop doing that. I used to be like that so much of the time. Like I was operating so inappropriately for my design. I actually had a stutter. And
Okay.
my path and purpose is I'm here to literally explain to the world. I'm here to explain to people a different way of thinking, a different approach, and how to take very complicated things and distill them down to what can be understood. I'm here to talk. And
Yeah.
I used to have a stutter.
But
That's
that's
what
a physical manifestation, right, of the misalignment.
exactly, because I would perceive what was going on, how people were reacting to me based off of how I was resonating. And, I'd
Mhm.
open my mouth when I wasn't asked for anything because I was contributing to conversation, for instance, and I would turn beet red. I would start
Yeah.
sweating profusely. Oh, God forbid the actual people stopped talking and looked at me. And then I would sweat so bad. I mean, it was like from here to here, just drenched in my
I
armpit.
laugh because I relate. I relate so
Yeah.
much. I was a server and I was the most awkward server you could ever have
Yes.
play in it. Like Jesus, they probably felt uncomfortable just like being in the room with me.
You're like, I'm sorry for giving you my order. Oh
Yeah,
God, are you going to be okay? And
exactly.
that's the thing, you are the most not awkward human. Like when
But
you're in
operating in an uncomfortable space, it brings that out, and I can totally feel that, and that's where everything has shifted since I've put
yeah,
myself in better positions. And I love all of this because it shows what I've done right so far,
yeah,
and it shows that I'm on that right path, but it also shows the pieces that I was missing.
yeah.
And truly, truly, I'm so glad we're doing this because I love working with you, but I can like truly say from like my perspective that this works too, and that's so important for people to
Oh,
see.
yeah, yeah. And I'm just so glad. I'm so glad. And another thing that this really helps with is it gives when we start getting into it, we can start recognizing what's going on with other people. It gives us so much compassion. Like I was just having an
Yeah,
experience with my fiance and his dad, and they're in their normal dynamic, but I could read his energy and he was getting uncomfortable and it was
mhm,
perceived as him getting embarrassed. I'm like, oh, he's not embarrassed. It's that he's being asked and he's operating just a smidge out of his design, so he doesn't know what to say here, and it's causing this whole flush of him. So I could just feel compassion, and I'm like, well, I know his design, so therefore I'm just going to be like, let me take over. I'm going to ask you a yes or no question, and then he
mhm.
can tune in, and then he can get his composure back. He had no idea what was going on. None.
Yeah, no, I love this. So many of my clients even use this with their clients, and I know you know that.
Right.
But
And that's why I'm the coach's coach, because I'm like, do this with your clients and then get this. Um,
yeah,
how are you doing on time?
I am okay. I might have a knock on the door somewhat soon. I
Okay.
think I've got a good 15 minutes. I really do love all this. I'm telling you, it's really freaking awesome.
Yeah.
So do you want to try to hit 15 minutes and wrap up or
Yeah,
under?
well, I'm thinking too that we can complete with your emotional, I want to get more into the authority because it's important, and I want to go through just a few of your keys, and then we might come back together and actually do your gene key and then do an activation based off of your programming. So if you have time,
Okay.
sometime soon we can schedule and do another one whereby people can see the rest of this. Because for people
Okay.
that are watching, when I work with somebody and do their unique design code, it's an elongated thing where I'm training them. They have this entire report that I create for them that's totally unique to them. But then I train them on this over the course of a few days or a week long so that they actually know how to integrate it. And Elizabeth and I have been doing that. So it's never this simple. There's a lot more that goes into this, but the activations and the code work on your genes to get you into balance with what we've learned, but then the stuff that's still holding you back from operating your design centers in your past, like getting that out with the
Yeah.
quantum field. So it really allows people to jump into themselves, how they're supposed to be. So does that sound good, sweetie?
Sounds good.
Okay, so back to the emotional center for anybody that does have emotional centers. And by the way, you can look up your human design online. You can get your free design chart online. Like I always want people to have the resources, like go study yourself. It's just people come to me because it's great information, but unless you know how to translate it for what you're doing, what's going on in your relationship, your business, sometimes it doesn't click in as quickly as it can when you have somebody showing you how. But it's definitely, you can go get it online. Okay. So the emotional authority. So a lot of people are emotional authorities. Now, when we want to say yes, we want to do the thing, we're feeling the pressure to hurry up and make a decision, and we don't realize that we have to go through an emotional wave. We don't make the right decisions for ourselves, and then we're just bleeding out energy. So what is it like to be an emotional authority? I put it into terms of it's like collecting data. So typically there's a weight gate, and we all have different lengths of weight gate, but in general for emotional authorities, I like to do like a 3-day period for mediocre important decisions. Obviously it's not like, do I turn left or right? And I'll sit here for 3 days, like what am I going to eat for dinner? I'll let you know in 3 days. Like it's for the longer term decisions. It's not the instinctive things, which can be challenging. But for instance, it's collecting data. An invitation comes in. Your inclination is always no. But if you're really feeling it, I'll let you know in a couple of days. That day, you're just feeling into it. You're like, yes, I love this. Oh my God, I want this so much. Then the next day, you have to tune in about it again. You have to go through a sleep cycle and tune in about it again. And you always are asking yourself, how does this feel? Not what do I think? Not what does my heart say? Maybe a little bit, but how does this feel? And if it feels expansive, there's data there. You're like, cool. Okay, this is great. Then on the third day or something, you're still feeling into it. And lo and behold, more often than not, you will have something come in that gives you crystal clarity. And a lot of the time it's something where you're like, oh my God, if I had said yes to this, shit, I would have said yes and been locked in. But then this thing just happened, which gave me clarity. And now it's an absolutely no. But now I get to sail over here. And this was exactly what I really, 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 really wanted. Or it'll be something sails in and you're like, no, I'm 100% sure. Oh my gosh. But it's a natural clicking in of things where it's crystal clarity. There's no doubt. And in emotional authority, when there's crystal clarity, it is so powerful and it's so good for everybody else because it is reliable.
And
It
that's
is
what we've been
so
wanting to
reliable.
the whole time, right? Like that's what I've always wanted was that feeling. And
Yeah.
so to have a map of like this is how you get that feeling because I work so much off of my feelings. I need to feel alignment to do my work and I need to feel passion to be able to show up in the world. This makes so much sense because on the face of it, when you say 3 days, I'm like, but if you tell me why and these feelings that are going to happen, that makes so much sense to me. Like that
Yeah.
works.
Yep. And another advocating opportunity is, a lot of the time we've been told, shut down in our deep past, like, oh, you're too emotional, or don't listen to your emotions, or, like
Mhm.
logical. Well, if we know these things about ourselves, we can self-advocate and be like, actually, no, like
Yeah.
everything for me is about feelings. It doesn't mean I'm emotional. It means I am reliable. And that
Mhm.
goes back to the trust thing. When we know how to trust our own internal compass and we have enough experience to learn that we don't go wrong,
Mhm.
it's not going to lead us wrong. It takes some time to unpack the subconscious programs and the past experiences and translate. Sometimes we have to learn how to translate. But when we're in alignment and we understand the fine tuning of this mechanism, it doesn't lead us wrong ever. It's so interesting. So yes, sometimes we need to know the why, what it's going to feel like, why we have to hold back,
Mhm.
and yeah, things of that nature. So yeah, what I want to be talking about next time is the rest of your code, because the gene keys are this is where my juice is at. And I love this so much because then we're really getting into path and purpose and how it relates to you, your current business, where you're going, how you attract love, how you attract money. It's in my world, it's all about abundance. All of this is abundance. It's abundance of health and happiness and joy, but also abundance of prosperity and money and relationships and sex and friendships and all the good things, right? Like that is our birthright. But the gene keys, it's so yummy to get to know that because you are one of a kind woman. Everybody is. But the foundation is a human design. Like we have to know these parts in order to be able to relate to the gene keys. But then once we get into the gene keys, then we can move on to the quantum level reprogramming, which is very simple and fast, but it really gives you the up level to excel with your newfound information and alignment. Um, so we'll do that next time. And for anybody that's ever interested, I do unique design code for people. Please get in touch with me, comment below. You can find me on Facebook, Erica X Dale, or Instagram, because I've got this amazing business manager that's making everything work for my business. And I would love to work with people and help them to do this great work because everybody, in my opinion, is so important. And when you're living your most abundant life and in alignment, it benefits everybody. And that's my great work in the world. So I am here to help. Anything else that you'd like to add or ask, darling?
No, I'm also somebody who needs like integrate all of the information too. So I need a good day to just
Yep.
allow it to all happen. And I need to look at this PDF again. But it makes so much sense. I'm so glad we're doing this. I'm excited for the next piece.
Me too. Thanks for the time, sweetie. It just gets me so juiced up and you're just amazing. Thank you for the amazing work that you're doing. And for anybody who's interested in Elizabeth's work too, please go to her website. She has transformed so many businesses of just the tribe that I have right now with my friends and my clients. And she comes into a business and she's a projector. She's here to lead and say, let's do this and let's do this. But the component she has, her natural art, her magic is not my magic. And we're not expected to do everything and be everything. So when we can connect with the right people, everything clicks together. So yeah, check out Elizabeth Woolard. What's your website again?
It's Raiz Holistic Marketing. We'll put it in the description.
Okay, yeah, because it's spelled RAIZ, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you so much, darling. I love you, love you, love you to the moon.